Ephesians 5:22. Wives, submit to your husband as to the Lord, for the husband's head of the wife. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church. He gave himself up for her. Yeah.
Hello everyone, we welcome you to another episode of Family Time Today. And we have an exciting program for you this evening. And we just ask that you relax, lend us your attention for the next 30 minutes, and you will be glad you did. And if you have, like we usually say, friends, family, husband, wife, children, we are a user-friendly or viewer-friendly program, and it's good for everyone in the home to watch this program, including children. This time around, this one will touch on the kids. And so my name is May Victor, and I'm on here coming to you this evening with my husband. And you want to say hi to the viewers?
Hi viewers, welcome to this program. As my wife said, we have a very good program for you. We're going to be talking about something that is deep, that is family, that will touch even your friends. So that's your friend, invite him or invite her. Invite your friends, invite everybody.
Mm-hmm. And again, we want to just appreciate everyone who have stopped to drop us a note. Some people have actually stopped us in the stores, at the church, at different functions, and at the elevator, and said, we appreciate your program, we're getting blessed, and continue to do what you're doing. I tell you what, it means a whole lot to us, because we will feel out of place if we just end up talking to each other, while we think we're talking to everybody else out there.
That will be additional 30 more minutes of talking to each other. Even though we're doing 24 hours.
Yes.
We'd rather talk to you when we're on camera.
Exactly, because this 30 minutes is devoted to discussing issues that are very pertinent to our homes. And we will hope that everyone is watching. And I do know that there are some of us that are not able to take out that time and call in or drop us an email or text us for one reason or the other. We know you're out there, that you're watching. So we want to say thank you to everyone. Want to appreciate it. And how long have we done this?
It's been going on since May,
yes.
So this will be about the 5th or 6th month.
Of the sixth month that we've been doing this, coming to your home every Monday, at different times, wherever time you're watching it today, that's the same time you've been watching it since the program started. So we just want to appreciate all of our viewers and say thank you so much, and continue, please, to watch. Okay, today, honey, we're just going to be talking about living a legacy of gratitude.
Yes.
Living a legacy of gratitude. What do we mean by living a legacy of gratitude?
Living a legacy is what you leave behind when you're gone. We all have traditions in our family. Some recipe for cooking, some is a tradition for going to church, what you do on Thanksgiving, what you do on Christmas, what you do in different times of the year. Those are legacies that we leave. So legacy of gratitude would be living a legacy of giving thanks to God.
Wow. Living a legacy. You know what, viewers, we chose this program at this time, this season of our lives everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. This is a season of Thanksgiving, really, because we are entering into the last part of the year. America has just celebrated Thanksgiving a few days ago, and even if you're not in America, you're watching us from Africa, you're watching us from Europe, any part of the globe, a lot of people, this is a season that people are very thankful, generally, to God for saving and sparing their lives.
You take stock because at the beginning of the year you made resolutions. You took that 21 days praying and fasting, in which in most cases you were asking for a lot of things. You listed the things you wanted God to do for you. And here we are, a month to the end, less than a month to the end of the year. So that's the time to look back and take stock. And I appreciate, God, that you're still alive.
Yes.
Before you go into January again and begin to ask for some more.
For some more stuff. But the focus here that we're doing tonight is not only being thankful, but living a legacy. I want you to touch on that legacy part, honey. You know, because a lot of people understand what it means to be thankful. Oh, wake up in the morning, and some people don't even say the prayer. They just say, thank you, Lord. Or they, you know, land some money, a contract, or anything, say that. But the legacy part, how do we show legacy? The legacy part of the gratitude presupposes to me that the children are involved.
It does
generation.
It does mean that the children are involved. The whole family is involved.
Okay.
But you leave a legacy by teaching legacy.
Okay.
You teach it and you do it. So you do it even when you don't feel like doing it, because you know that your students, which is the rest of the family, they are watching you. And because they are watching you, some years or sometime when you don't feel like expressing that gratitude, you still express it, knowing that there are kids watching who are learning from you. That's how you leave legacies, by doing it and by teaching it.
And by teaching it. So who does this really fall on? You know, does it fall solely on, well, we're not talking about the children because they're the ones following the legacy. So who really does this? I don't want to say the responsibility, but I guess it's kind of like that of living, ensuring that this legacy carries on.
It is a responsibility. Let's call it what it is.
Okay.
It falls on the parents.
All right.
Because look at it this way. When you become a parent, the baton is handed over to you to raise the next generation of your family, your dynasty, or your tribe, your house, whatever it is. You are carrying that baton and you're transferring that baton to the next generation, which is your kids. So it falls on mom and dad to leave that legacy, to teach it, to live it, to act it.
Okay. Well, and I understand what you're saying. Someone is, you know, probably listening and say, legacy of gratitude, you know, then they're like, okay, well, I'll leave a legacy of gratitude if I'm grateful myself. And why should I be grateful? What has God done for me lately? You see what I'm saying? So is this like a lifestyle? Is it something you learn? How do you come about? Because to leave a legacy for me, it means that you have to know it yourself. Like you said, practice it and teach it. How do you begin to put yourself in that attitude of gratitude enough for you to see the need of it and pass it on?
You know, funny you were asking that question, because yesterday I was at one of the prisons in Houston, Texas. And that's what I was ministering to them on, how to give thanks at all times and for all things. Giving thanks at all times and for all things. And one of the patriarchs of the Bible, excuse me, David, was known to do that a whole lot.
Yes.
You know, in Psalm 34, David says, I'll bless the Lord at all times. His praise shall continually be in my mouth. And if you look at the circumstances surrounding David at the time that he said those things, David had no reason to be giving thanks to anybody, talk less God. David had been told he was going to be king. In fact, he had been anointed to be king of Israel. And yet he was homeless. His life was at stake. Saul was looking for him all over the place to kill him. He was a fugitive. He was homeless. Caught to capital, David was among vagabonds, worthless people, criminals. Those were the only friends he had. And yet David had time to say, I will bless the Lord at all
All
times.
times.
His praise shall continually be in my mouth. So we learn to give thanks even when we don't feel like it. That's how you leave a legacy. Now, if you only give thanks when you feel like it, you are also leaving a legacy of giving thanks sometimes and not giving thanks at all times. Because the children, your students, they are watching. When things are not going right in the family, you say, well, this year we are not going to give thanks. We really have no reason to give thanks. We're going to celebrate this Thanksgiving, this Christmas, this New Year on a low key and just handle ourselves. What you're telling them is God has not given us reason to give thanks. And that is living a bad legacy.
Wow. Wow, that's really is awesome. So the key here is giving thanks at all times.
And
For all
things. All things.
For all things.
In all situations.
How easy is it
Good
to
question.
give thanks even when things are not working out your way? You see what I'm saying? Because the Bible says that all things are working for our good. But sometimes when you look at it, it doesn't look like it.
It doesn't.
So when mom and dad feel like things are not working their way, dad has just submitted that proposal for that contract, big contract that he's been expecting, a breakthrough on. He has prayed, he has fasted, he's done everything, but then when he went back, the final word is denied or not approved. How does mom give thanks? Just coming from the doctor, doing a mammogram, and being told that it looks like cancer of the breast.
How do you give thanks?
How does mom and dad in those situations even catch themselves to give thanks, let alone pulling the whole family together and say, you know what, we need to give thanks?
And another good question. In fact, let me go back to what I told the inmates, the prisoners yesterday. I gave them an analogy, and they was in their own context. How do you give thanks? You put things in the big picture, in context. That's how you give thanks. If you're just focused on today, on what is happening now, it is difficult to give thanks. You live for the moment. But you're not supposed to live for the moment. You live for life. So what I told them was that for some of them who have 30 years in prison, 10 years in prison, 5 years in prison, the question for them, some are in their 50s and they have 30 years. So they know at the back of their mind that they may never get out of prison. So how does that kind of person give thanks? How he gives thanks is to put his situation in context. And I told them that every day that they live and wake up gets them closer to their goal. So if you're counting what is remaining or what has not been done, you will not give thanks.
That's right.
If you count what was done or what has been done for you, then you give thanks.
That's right.
You know the
songwriter?
Yes, the songwriter was saying, count your
blessings.
Name them one by one.
Yes.
It is in counting your blessings that you give thanks. If you count your failures, your curses or your downfalls, you won't give thanks. You will have reason to say, God, why me? So the legacy of thanksgiving is the legacy of looking at what God has done for you, where he has brought you to. Again, one other analogy I gave them is, if I have to walk a distance of 1 kilometer, every step that I take gets me closer to the end of that 1 kilometer. So even though I have not made it to the end, I have to give thanks for the 2, 3, 4, 5 steps that I've taken. So if you had the opportunity of applying for a contract, that's a step. If you didn't make it, that positions you for the next one. If you're 50, if you're 40 and you have lived and they said you have only 10 days to live or 1 hour to live, No, you're not dead. So give thanks that you are alive. You still have 10 days to fight. God has 10 days to change his mind about your situation. So those are the things you do, and it's easy, makes it easier to give thanks. Put your situation in the context of the big picture.
So, viewers, here you have it. If you're looking for a reason to give thanks, because this thing, I'm a firm believer that you have to sell a product to yourself.
Yes.
Buy it before you can sell it.
You can't
to
give what you
somebody-
don't have.
to somebody else. So that's why I'm focusing a lot on mom and dad for now. We're coming to the children, but I'm focusing a lot on mom and dad, because if you're looking for a reason to be thankful, don't worry about what is to come.
No.
I mean, that's what I'm getting from your analogy,
no.
your profound, examples this evening. Think about what has happened.
What
As
has
a
happened.
matter of fact, this program is airing at the last month of the year. So this is a stock taking time. Maybe start by gathering the family together and start thinking back from January 1st.
And that's what we did
Yes.
last week
Yes.
for the Thanksgiving.
Yes.
We were in New Orleans
Yes.
with the whole family. Actually, we were in the French quarters in New Orleans. And it was a time for us to look back and say, this happened, that happened. Daughter, you've climbed this mountain, you've overcome this one, this is what is remaining, but let's thank God for where we are. And we're not just doing it to celebrate God. We're doing it because I wanted the kids to learn the habit of thanking God, to develop that, so that towards the end of the year, the kids will look back and thank God. They will not look back and say, okay, I had 10 things on my prayer list. God has only done 2. Oh, this 8 that is remaining. No. You look at that 10, you thank God for the 2. That's 10 minus 2. So you're not where you were before.
Exactly. If you thought that God has not done a thing, you might want to take stock. I keep emphasizing on that. And when you take stock, pay key attention to things we call the normal blessings of the day. You know what I'm saying? I'm in the healthcare profession also, as well as the legal, and I was dealing with a patient, honey, and that showed up in the hospital. A very young lady of 19 years old, and this is where the children came in. 19. You know why she's in the hospital? She was trying to wake up from sleep. She took a nap in the afternoon. Trying to wake up from sleep. Because she was still tired, a little groggy. She opened her mouth and yawned. As before.
Which she had done.
Zillion times since her life. And immediately dislocated her jaw. Just by yawning. Wow. When I got out of her room, I looked up and I said, Lord, how many yawns that I have exercised in my life?
Some while you're sleeping.
Some even while you're sleeping, you
without
didn't
even
know.
taking stock
So
of
now that girl is facing surgery, oral surgery, to fix that jaw. And it's a major, delicate surgery. Just by yawning. So that's why I said, do not take some of these things and say, well, you drove out in the morning and came back in the evening. Don't ever count that as an uncommon, or rather a common blessing, or a normal, usual blessing. Because a lot of people took those steps that you take and they did not get to the finish line.
The result wasn't the same.
Yes.
So we look at the things that God has
count our
done.
blessings. Count your blessings. True blessings. I tell you, if you get a 500-page book, you will fill it in a second. If you start from January, our pastor, usually will say, if you know how to think, you will know how to thank. But if you don't know how to think, you will not know how to thank.
And if you want to stretch that
Okay.
line of thinking, if you know how to complain, you should know how to be thankful.
Yes.
The same mouth you used to say, why am I here? Why is this happening to me? Why me? You can say, why not me?
Exactly.
God has given me this challenge because He knows I'm strong. He knows I can handle it because He has a plan for my life. So you put things in the context, you say, well, this is for this season. This too will pass.
That's right.
So you give God thanks for the fact that this is seasonal, this is temporary. Your situation is not permanent.
That's right.
I know a blind guy, someone who is blind, who is happier than a lot of people who have their eyes. And sometimes I wonder, I look at him, I say, why is this guy this excited? He's not seeing what I'm seeing and the good things that are happening. He can't use his iPhone. He doesn't see all the technological things, the iPad and the things that are happening, but he's happier than I am most of the time. So gratitude is a thing of the mind.
Yes.
It's not really reality.
Yes.
So if it was reality, a lot of people, the poor people, will be the most miserable people in the world. But the statistics shows us that the most miserable people in the world are the
And the
richest people.
rich,
The
yeah.
people that have it.
Yes. And even in marriages, a lot of divorces occur
Among the rich.
among the rich. So at the end of the day, it's really not money or what you have
Yes.
or the property that you have. Now, my question, the next question that I want to ask Honey, is, when we talk about this gratitude, how do you involve a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a 20-year-old that is your child? How do you inculcate? Practically, how could we do this?
Yeah, and that's a very good question. How do we leave that legacy for someone who is young? You know, I was telling again, I go back to the prisoners and my teaching yesterday. I was telling them a story about a young child, about 9-year-old. He looked through his window and then he saw his friends playing outside. He wanted to go join them to play. But he also knew it was lunchtime. His mom wasn't going to let him go play until after lunch. So he came to his mom in the kitchen. He said, Mom, you know, I'm still full from that big old breakfast that I had in the morning. Of course, his mom knew where he was going. So Mom said, Jimmy, sit down. You're going to have lunch before you go and play. So he drops his head, sits down in the lunch table and waits. And then after the lunch, he gulps down his lunch and says, Mom, I finished. Can I go and play now? Mom keeps quiet. And Jimmy knows when Mom is quiet and doesn't say anything, it's trouble.
It's trouble.
As young as he was,
Yes.
he knew that Mom doesn't keep quiet unless there is problem. So he thought for a minute, and then he remembered. And then he said, he sat down and lowered his head and said, Mom, I'm really sorry. I forgot to say thank you again. Can I go and play now? His mom now said, say thank you, Jimmy. He said, thank you, Mom. It was really a nice lunch. And then his mom said, go and play, Jimmy. So that's how you teach kids to be grateful for what they have. From that early age, if he's grateful to you, the parent, for what you're doing for him, he will learn to be grateful to God, ultimately. Because at that young age, he may not get the concept of God, but he has the concept of you. So you teach it and you keep emphasizing that. When good things happen for the family, you gather everybody, you give God thanks first before you celebrate.
That's right.
That's how you teach it.
And they learn. Don't you ever think that the kids don't learn? You know, I have a story to take, like our daughter, whenever she, the Lord, you know, she has a testimony or God does something, because we've taught them from early age to be appreciative of whatever, no matter how small they think it is that God does. You know, each time the phone rings and it's her, what she does is she starts singing. My God is a good God. You know, whatever she, and then I'm like, I'll join her to sing, and by the time we get through singing, then she shares the testimony, and then we praise God together for what he has done. And that's one thing, because I know that she'll carry it on even onto her kids, into her family, in the next generation. So that's one of the things that we could do in encouraging our children to be thankful. Don't take God's goodness for granted, because it's not promised you. Like God doesn't have to stoop to our level.
No, He doesn't.
He doesn't have to.
He doesn't.
Now, I just want us quickly to kind of go through this and tell, let the viewers know, when we talk about gratitude and gratitude, is it just an attitude? Is it just something nice to do? Are there benefits of this? Why must I be thankful?
No, of course there are benefits. You go back to the story of Jimmy and his mom. Once Jimmy said, "Thank you, Mom, for that nice lunch," Mom was happy. Mom says, "Jimmy, you can go and play." So when we thank God, God blesses us some more.
That's right.
Besides, when we are grateful, it makes our situation manageable. So, but when you keep complaining and dwelling on the things that hasn't happened, the devil magnifies those things more than it is.
That is so true.
He puts it as the only contest instead of one of the contests. So you dwell so much on it and waste time. But when we thank God, for God put things in perspective for us.
And you know what other thing that I know thankful does for you is it takes away the spirit of sorrow and depression.
Exactly. It makes life.
Yeah, it takes away the spirit, and depression is one ailment that is hidden a lot of people in this day and age. People are depressed because they feel that they don't, their lives are just worthless. You can't do anything wrong, can't make a headway, and the devil gives on and on and on and on reasons of things you have not achieved, things you haven't done, and all that list. But if you maintain an attitude of gratitude, you are happy all the time. Joy, there's a surge of joy in you. Even in situations that you're going through some things and somebody's looking at you and say, "I don't know how you can wear a smiling face and still going through this situation." You see?
It does help. It makes life easier to be grateful. Again, the blind guy that I talked about before, this guy could be moaning and complaining all day long. But he's a jolly guy and life goes easy for him. So we can make our life a lot easier by being grateful for what we have.
Another advantage of gratitude is gratitude actually attracts blessings to you. And lack of gratitude repels miracles and blessings.
And persons, there are people, including me, who can't deal with those who are not grateful. Most of us don't. You would rather go to a positive person than someone who is always negative. What does that do? It means that the blessings you have, you rather bless a positive person so that he has more than someone who is always whining and complaining and doing all that thing.
Okay. Wonderful. Our time is almost up. This time goes by like we have always told you, so very fast. But then to recap, we've been talking about leaving the legacy of gratitude.
Yes.
And we encourage you families to try it. Give it a shot, especially this holiday season. We're coming to you, a big announcement. We're going to be coming to you the rest of the month of December, with issues, gratitude. We want to just lay this foundation here. And we're going to be talking about gift giving, because sometimes somebody has all it takes and still not grateful.
Oh yeah, a lot of people.
And if your children have not learned to be grateful to God, guess what? They will not learn to be grateful to mom and dad.
That is true.
Because they don't know what gratitude is.
That is
so
true.
We're going to be talking about that. So please stay tuned this whole period. And we know that you're going to be blessed. You're going to be mightily blessed. But this is a time, husband, wife, that you want to pull all your family together. Take stock for what has happened. Plan for the coming year. What is your goal? What are your goals as a family? What are your goals? And please, as you're planning, do not leave those beautiful babies behind. Involve them. They have a goal too.
Yeah, they need to receive the legacies.
They need to receive the legacies. You don't want to enter into 2013 aimless.
Ephesians 5:22. Wives, submit to your husband as to the Lord, for the husband's head of the wife. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church. He gave himself up for her. Yeah.